What's going on, everybody? Blue here. As promised last week, I will be doing the second and final Commander precon for the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I'll do the unboxing of it and then the upgrade guide, how to make it a little bit better at the end. So let's go ahead and just get started. We'll do my favorite part for this, which is the ripcord. And then we'll show you what's inside, and we'll go from there. Like all precons, it comes with some jits, or whatever you want to call them, little tabbies. They're all not really that useful. I'll find a way. The meat of the whole thing is right here. What's inside this, and we'll get into it. So, as always, it comes with a little insert, nothing to do with that. Light counter, it's a nice color here. It's light blue, a little bit of orange on the bottom, a little bit of green. It's a cool little dragon on the back. That's not bad. And, of course, we've got the deck. So let me go ahead and open that up. Let me move this out of the way. And we'll just right over there. And let's get started on this. Alright, so who is the commander that they give us for the precon? Alright, so let's go over the commander that's in the precon. It's Chishiro, the Shattered Blade, so red, green, 2 of any. A legendary Snake Samurai, so on target or on point with the creature type. He has, or it has actually, whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under control, you create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with menace. And at the beginning of your end step, you put a +1/+1 counter on each modified creature you control. And modified creatures are the following: ones that are equipped, have auras on them, or counters. They're all considered modifications. So, not bad. I actually kind of like this one. It's actually not bad at all. So, let's go over what else is in the deck. Alright, the secondary commander is Kaima the Fractured Calm, so same casting cost, so red, a green, and 2 of any. While Chishiro is a 4/4, this is a 3/3, and it says at the beginning of your end step, you goad each creature your opponents control that's enchanted by an aura that you control. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Kaima the Fractured Calm for each creature goaded this way. So, it's a different direction you can go. I kind of like Chishiro. It's actually not a bad commander, especially considering that red-green is not my personal favorite combination of colors. I'm in the blue-black-green area. But not bad for precon. So what else is in the deck? Orochi Merge Keeper. I'm just going to rifle through them. If you want to read them, I'm not going to read them all off. Just pause the video on any one that you want to read. Invigorating Hot Spring. You may need to pause for this one. That's a lot of stuff to read. Tawashi Guide Bot. A lot of weird names on this one. Walking Skyscraper. Acidic Slime. A Beast Within, System Defense. Fertilid. Hunter's Insight. Kadama's Reach, not a bad inclusion. Loyal Guardian. I think that one of the reasons why I wanted this precon personally, when I take it apart, I want a Loyal Guardian for one of my decks. Order of Nylea. Rampant Growth. Sakura Tribe Elder, really good card. Snake Umbra, another good one. Vastwood Surge. Grumgully. If you have followed most of my other stuff, you know that I actually do a Commander Precon, budget Commander Precon with Grumgully. I like Grumgully. Mage Slayer, not a bad option for equipment. Rhythm of the Wild, one of the chase cards for getting in this precon, just because it was expensive before it was released. Arcane Signet, Fire Shrieker, a Soul Ring as usual, Swiftfoot Boots, a Command Tower, Gruul Turf, Opal Palace. They put lands in the middle for some reason. Aki Battle Squad. Collision of Realms. Not Crimson. It's all the red. Cameo of Celebration. Komainu Battle Armor. I'm going to butcher the names. Smoke Spirit's Aid. Unquenchable Fury. Ascendant Acolyte. Concord with the Kami. Kosei Penitent Warlord. One with the Kami. Rampant Rejuvenator. It's actually a really good card. Silk Guard. Tanuki Transplanter. Agitator Ant for that goading itch. Chain Reaction. Good little removal. Chaos Warp. It's in almost every Commander Precon that's red now. Elemental Mastery. Goblin Race Runners. Krenko. The new school one, not the old one. Ox of Agonos. Shifting Shadow. Starstorm. Torian Mauler, Bear Umbra, one of the chase cards for a precon. Always loved to get Bear Umbra. It was worth a lot more before it was in the precon. Good for infinite combo stuff, which I will mention later. Champion of Lamholt, Forgotten Ancient, Genesis Hydra, Primeval Protector, Rishkar Pima Renegade. Rishkar's Expertise, good budget draw for green. Same thing with Shamanic Revelation. Soul's Majesty. A lot of card draw. Spearbreaker Behemoth. An indestructible 5/5. Whiptongue Hydra. Decimate. Ulashed the Hate Seed. Blackblade Reforged. Bone Horde. Sword of Vengeance. Cinderglade. Exotic Orchard. For some reason, it's in every single precon. Game Trail. Mossfire Valley. Double Mossfire Valley. Wow. This is what they were talking about, where you're supposed to take this out, and they suggested that you put it a basic land in. However, the truth of the matter is that they removed a mythic Planeswalker for this mistake. So, more about that later. Oran Reef, the Vastwood. Raging Ravine. Temple of Abandon. Some mountains, some forests. The extra thick card for Chishiro. And then the tokens. So what are the tokens that we get here? We get a treasure token, a goblin token, an elemental token, a smoke blessing, a beast, a spirit, a plant, sapperling spirit, a Phyrexian germ, and then on the other side, more spirits, some treasure tokens, some red spirits, and more smoke blessings. So that's what you get in the precon when you get it, open it right out of the box, which includes the mistake of an extra rare land that should have been a Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. Again, we'll talk about that later. So that's what you get. Nothing too fancy or special. Some good surprises in here. A couple of reprints that were definitely needed, especially in the realm of Commander. But now we go on and we talk about some upgrades we can do. So let's get started on that right now. All right, so let's start off going over a couple of the lands. There's not too much as far as upgrades on this section. I'm going to actually, like I did last week, I'm going to shorten the amount of things I suggest, but at least give the most impactful ones. So as far as lands go, we're going to start off with Kessig Wolf Run. This deck is mostly going to be a go-wide strategy, but it can be a sneaky Voltron strategy with the Chishiro being a 4/4, and you can modify it. You can add auras on it. You can put equipment out on it, make it bigger, and then do commander damage. So Kessig Wolf Run can help with that. Oran Reef, the Vastwood, I believe, was in here. That's always a good option. You're not going to upgrade to that, but I'm glad it's in there. Karn's Bastion, because you're spreading out +1/+1 counters, so why not add some Proliferate in here? Nesting Ground helps move counters around, so you can actually go with a go-wide strategy and move counters to more options when you're given the +1/+1 counters, or you can add them all into Chishiro, making your commander a huge 21 damage swing. All right. Urza Saga is always, from now on, I believe Urza Saga is just an auto-include and everything. War Room helps you with more draw. Obviously, red has its own way to draw. Green has, in here, was a lot of the rares that were draw cards, but you can always have more. You need more fuel to your hand. Bonder's Enclave, same thing. That will help you also draw cards. Rogue's Passage, again, going with the Voltron theme with Chishiro. You can make it really big, and then you can make it unblockable. And lastly, I'm going to mention, if you want to speed up the deck a little bit on the land side, Ancient Tomb is a good way to help get your commander out quicker. So those are a couple of the options. I want to also mention that you notice I don't mention dual lands anymore and stuff like fetch lands, because that's your personal preference by now. You would probably know that's the case. So I'm just going to throw that out there as a side mention. Let's go on to the ramp section. Ramp is pretty simple. We're in green, and green has the best ramp in the game. We all know that. So my suggestions are to upgrade what's already in here. So put in things like Nature's Lure, 3 Visits, or Farseek. If you wanted to go a different route on this one, you can go with Mana Rocks, and some of the best Mana Rocks in the game are like Mox Opal, a Mana Crypt, or the Jeweled Lotus to get your commander out quicker. Those are just the few that I'm going to mention. I will say that in the enchantment section, I'm going to mention a little something else, but that's the section I have for now as far as the ramp goes. As far as the dudes go, or the creatures, you have a couple different ways you can look about doing it. Something like Renata, Call to the Hunt, helps you with more +1/+1 counters. If you want to do the go wide strategy where you're creating the tokens, you can do that. Tago, Goblin Weaponsmith, a really cool card, actually. It's only an uncommon from Commander Legends, but it has the landfall ability of creating equipment that you can equip to things, including the tokens that you just created, giving them a +1/+1 counter. So, and it's creating the 2/2 from the equipment coming into play for playing land. So it's good little synergy there. Toski is another one, and the only reason why I'm mentioning Toski, it's indestructible, and it helps you draw cards, and that's what you really kind of need, is to be able to draw more fuel to get this deck going. That's one of the downfalls to it, is it doesn't have a lot of ways to keep going. All right. Vorinclex, again, adding to the +1/+1 counter thing, doubling them, always good. Taking your opponent's ability of putting counters on things away is always a bonus as well. Orin Frostfang helps you again with card draw, giving your stuff Death Touch is always a bonus. It doesn't count as being modified, which sucks, but it still is a useful ability. Verduran Enchantress, if you're going the Aura route or Enchantment route altogether, Verduran Enchantress again helps fuel you for card draw. Destiny Spinner makes it so that your enchantments are uncounterable, and that's always a good thing. They also gives them, I believe it's hexproof. It's either hexproof. Yeah, it's hexproof. So they can't be targeted, so that's a good thing as well. I'll have it up there. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know it makes them uncounterable. I just don't remember if it gives it hexproof or not. Vigor is a good one. It makes those little creatures, those little 2/2s that you're creating with Chishiro, almost unkillable. I mean, it helps make it so that whenever they take damage, they instead get +1/+1 counters, which again plays into the whole deal with, you know, a Vorinclex in play and other things. So it's a good little option. You've got Perforos, God of the Forge. Whenever a token comes into play, you can do damage to all opponents. That's always a good thing. You got Lizard Blades. It's one of those newer cards from Neon Dynasty. It counts as a creature and equipment, so it's always good to have that, you know, versatility. And then Thundering Raiju is another option. I'm going to have that one up there as well, so you can take a look at that one. That's a good one. As far as spells go, I'm going to go over different types of the spells. I'm not going to go over every single version of a spell that does it, but I'll go over a few. So you've got Tutors in green. The red ones are not that great, but the green ones are pretty good for a deck like this. Worldly Tutor lets you go get a creature. Green Sun Zenith lets you go get a creature of your choice and then shuffles back in. And then Finale of Devastation acts as both a tutor for creatures and a finisher if you've done it right. So all good tutors. For defense, you've got things like Blasphemous Act to destroy everything else on the board. The hope is that if you're playing catch-up, that's your way to catch up. Simply put. All right, Vandal Blast helps get rid of opposing artifacts for everybody. If you not kick it. Is it kick? No, it's not kick. I forget the damn name. And then Hull Breach and things like Hull Breach, so green and red together. A lot of their stuff, you saw Decimate was in here. Combined, their stuff does a lot of artifact, enchantment, and creature removal based on damage. So a lot of non-creature permanent removal, and then red helps with damage to kill creatures. So all good options. For card draw, you saw the ones that they added in here because apparently the weakness to the deck was card draw. So you can add things like Harmonize, which lets you just draw 3 cards. Return of the Wild Speaker and Faithless, things like looting cards like Faithless Looting, and their many iterations of those would help with card draw for this deck. For finishers, I mentioned Finale of Devastation earlier, but we've got other things out there like Overwhelming Stampede, because you're going to have so many creatures out on the board if you go the go wide route, which I would suggest you do. Overrun's another one, and then of course everybody's favorite finisher is Triumph of the Hordes, because you only need to get 10 damage through with it, with all your stuff, because it gives them all infect. And then a couple of utility cards that I'll mention are things like Jeska's Will, helps you get ahead a little bit faster with some mana, and Heroic Intervention will help save all of your creatures. So like if you Blasphemous Act, but you Heroic Intervention first, you'll have all your creatures on the board and your opponent will have none, and then you can Triumph of the Hordes the board and then win the game. So those are just a couple of the spell options that we have available. As far as enchantments go, this is where it gets a little dicey. So you can do a lot of different auras. The one I'm going to mention off the bat is going to be Rancor, because it comes back to you. It comes back to your hand if the creature dies. There's a plethora of different buffing auras in green and in red that you could use, and I'm just going to mention Rancor and then show you what that does, and then tell you that you should use something like MTG Familiar or the Gatherer and look up just auras and see what ones are the best for what you have available to you in your own collection, or that you can go get. Bear Umber was an example. That one can create an infinite, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. You've got, I mentioned earlier also about ramp section being something that you can use enchantments for. There's something like Utopia Sprawl, Wild Growth, all those. There are a huge amount of green enchantments that are auras that attach to lands and can ramp you. You can use that as well if you'd like. The reason why I mention that is because whenever an aura enters the battlefield, you can create a 2/2. So when you do play them, and I would suggest that that's an option you look into, you get to create a 2/2 on top of ramping yourself. So it's always a great option. Other things you can use as far as enchantments go are things like Doubling Season and the ilk of them. So like Doubling Season, Primal Vigor, all those ones that do all the doubles that you need, because you're creating tokens, so Doubling Season works, and Primal Vigor works. You're getting +1/+1 counters on things, so that works as well. Enchantress's Presence also helps with card draw. Whenever an enchantment comes into play, you get to draw a card. You see where that's going. Song of the Dryad is good for defense. It helps lock down your opponent's, usually commander, but there are other threats that you could use it on, maybe a Crater Hoof or something like that. But the Crater Hoof, once it enters the battlefield, it's already done what it needs to do. Sylvan Library, also with the Abundance, that combination can be used as well, but Sylvan Library in itself helps you draw cards, or at least get cards in your hand that are useful. And then if you don't have an Abundance to get the combo of being able to draw the cards, you have that little ability of putting dead cards back onto your library. Impact Tremors is a great option here too. So Impact Tremors can be a kill card just based upon getting... So Togo, is it Togo? Yeah, Togo. Whenever you play land, you put a aura into play, or not, sorry, an equipment, my bad. An equipment into play, triggering a 2/2 token to be played. So now you've got a land, you get an equipment out of it, and you get damage to everybody with the Impact Tremors. And if you do it right, with green being a lot of ramp, the combo here is getting a lot of ramp spells to put lands into play, triggering Togo, putting equipment into play. The equipment coming into play triggers the 2/2 token to come into play, and then the 2/2 token coming into play triggers Impact Tremors. You see where that's going. Guardian Project. I've mentioned this almost every single time I do an upgrade guide for green, just because I believe that Guardian Project, without being made specifically for Commander, is made specifically for Commander. Helps you draw cards. What more do you want? Cryptolith Right is another one. So Cryptolith Right is one of my favorite options for a green deck that has go-wide implications. That makes all of your dudes into Llanowar Elves, or whatever you want to choose as your base 1/1 that taps to add a green. Only the difference is this taps to add any color that you want. So all of your dudes, now they become Llanowar Elves. So some good options there. Take a look at some of the things. I've got most of them up there for you to look at. And then if you have any that, like, there are not Cryptolith Right or Guardian Project, but most of these have redundant other cards that do the same thing. Remember, use the Gatherer or NTG Familiar if you have an Android, and take a look at the options. Just put the wording right for what's on the card, and it'll give you all the options. As far as artifacts go, utility artifacts in general, not mana rocks. We've got things like Sword of the Animist, helps you go get lands, and again, that can help you with your landfall triggering a Togo. So you see where I'm going with this little combo of things. Ball of Nylea is actually not a bad option. It gives all your attacking creatures Death Touch. Death Touch is actually quite helpful in Commander because people don't want to block things that have Death Touch normally, and if they do, at least you've gotten something of theirs out of the way. Another option, like, the Blow of Nylea also has other things that you can, like, put +1/+1 counters on things, or deal damage to flying creatures, or gain life. There are a couple of things. It's very utilitarian. Another option, to Ozolith, so that you can move the counters around when things die. Always good to have. I will mention the Great Henge. I will mention that for every green deck going forward, just because there's nothing that you can't do with it. And then I want to mention, as far as equipment goes, because if you want to go the equipment route, this is the perfect time to start looking at the swords. So Sword of Body and Mind, Sword of Feast of Famine, all those good swords that are out there. Take a look at them on the Gatherer or your MTG Familiar app, and take a look at which ones would fit. Obviously, you don't want the ones that have protection from red or from green if you're using ours, so keep that in mind as well. So as far as Planeswalkers go now, Planeswalkers, I'm going to mention to you that you should put the Nissa Voices Zendikar back in. It was originally supposed to be here. The fact that it wasn't is a travesty. This deck really would love Nissa Voices Zendikar. It also would like Nissa Who Shakes the World. Helps make your lands tap for double mana. Nothing can ever go wrong with having extra mana. Then you've got Jiang, I'm going to mess up the name, Jiang Yangu, which I wish, of all the sets that could have had Jiang Yangu in it, it would have been Neon Dynasty, but they didn't. They missed an opportunity there, but I'm going to say that that's another Cryptolith Right sort of thing where you can have all your token creatures tap for mana. So it's a good one. And then I'm going to tell you to look at the Vivians. I'm not going to mention each one specifically. Just take a look at them and see if any of them would fit into the theme that you're trying to do. It depends on if you're going to go wide, if you're going to go Voltron, if you're going to go +1/+1 counters. Just take a look at all the Vivians. Each one of them does something different that would help it. It just depends on which build you're going to go in. And finally, the last thing I'm going to do for upgrade section for this deck is I'm going to tell you the combo that I was talking about. So we already have a Bear Umber in the deck. I'm going to say go out and get a Aggravated Assault or Sword of Feast and Famine. Both of them do the same thing that you want. So the whole point of that is Aggravated Assault says for 4 you can have an additional attack phase. You untap everything. You get an additional attack phase. Bear Umber lets you untap your lands when the creature attacks. Same thing with Sword of Feast and Famine. So the point here is that you tap all your lands to create mana, create additional attack phases, and then when you attack with one of the creatures, you untap all your lands, and then you can continually do them over and over again. So that's the combo that I'm going to suggest for this deck. It's already halfway in there anyway, so why not just follow through with it and go with it? So that's the only thing I'm going to suggest as far as the combo goes, and that's actually the end of my section for upgrades. There are many other options you can go with, but those are the ones that I'm specifically mentioning just because I think those are the best options at the moment. That will change over time, and this video will start to look old as time goes on and new sets come out, but as of the making of this film, or this video, that's what I've got for you. So that's when I go to thanking you for watching the video. I'm going to let you know that if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or any suggestions for anything, there are multiple ways that you can contact me. You've got the Facebook page. It's bluebearsgames on Facebook. Just put it in a Google search engine. You'll find me. My symbol is pretty easy to find. You can email me at bluebearsgames@gmail.com. I'm always around to answer questions unless I'm asleep. So, you know, I'm definitely down to talk about a lot of things. Or if you don't feel like contacting me directly and you want me to contact you, just put in the comment section any way I can contact you and we'll go from there. Other than that, I believe I'm done for the week. Do me the favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and share this out to anybody who is looking to see what comes inside this precon, somebody who wants to see what the cards are itself, and they're on the fence about buying it, or somebody who wants to go and wants an upgrade guide to what could be put in to make this deck better. There are a lot of people who always ask, what can I do to make a deck better? Well, I do that every single precon, so that's a good reason to subscribe if you want to see more stuff when it comes to that. On top of that, I also do a daily pack opening for usually the current set. Unfortunately, Neon Dynasty has not become available in my area, so I haven't been able to do that. Currently, I'm on Strixhaven, and in a couple weeks, I'll probably go back to Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So we'll see. It depends on what comes up. So other than that, that's my time. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. See you next week.